Welcome to our tutorial on signal flow. In this tutorial, we'll be reviewing how audio signals are routed into your computer. Signal flow is the path that your music follows from its acoustic source through your computer. We're going to explain terms like insert, sends, and bus. Understanding how this works is essential to being a computer musician. The terms that we use to describe and demarcate flow, like inserts and sends, come from the olden days of analog recording. The way your computer handles signal flow is much more powerful because you're not limited by any number of cable connections and hardware. Also, there's no loss of quality as the signal flows down the virtual paths. While this incredible power is definitely a huge plus of digital music making, it can be kind of confusing because there aren't any actual cables to show how the signal is traveling inside your computer. Let's look at this diagram of a track's signal flow. First, we've got the input. This is your live audio source, like a mic or a guitar, or an audio file that you imported. Next, we have what's called an insert. An insert is pretty much what the name suggests. It's an interruption of the signal flow. An insert is the very next thing that your signal hits. Most DAWs support multiple inserts, as well as the option not to use them if you don't need them. Order does matter. The changes in sound you get from one insert will affect the next stop in the signal flow. From your insert, the signal goes to the track's volume control. You adjust this with a fader in the program's mixer window. Once you've adjusted the volume, then you can go to pan control, a slider in the mix window, to adjust the signal's position between the left and right speakers. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about inserts. You'd use an insert anytime you want to process the entire signal in some way. This is the most common way to apply volume boosting or frequency optimization or EQ. Inserts are not the only way to route audio. You can also use something called sends. While an insert interrupts the signal's path, a send copies the signal, sends it out for effects processing, and then routes it back. Remember, because it's in digital format, the copy is just as high in quality as the original. If you used a send, you're going to hear both the original and the copy playing. The original signal is called the dry signal, and the copy, the one with the effects, is called wet. This diagram here shows a track signal flow with sends. While inserts in Pro Tools are only pre-send, meaning that the signal goes to your insert before it gets to the volume control, sends can be either pre- or post-fader. This means you can have sends before the signal is routed to volume and sends after it's routed through the volume adjustment. If you use a pre-fader send, a copy of the audio signal will be routed to the effect you want before it reaches your volume adjustment. Basically, this means that changes in the track's volume and panning will have no effect on the copy being sent. Now, with a post-fader send, when you change the level of a track's volume fader, you affect the level of the audio that's being sent. Pro Tools has a very convenient interface for managing the level of signal that you'd like to go to the send. Each send generates an output window with a lever for making this adjustment. Pan adjustments don't affect either pre- or post-fader sends. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about sends. Your final mix will contain both the original dry signal and the copy of the signal, the wet signal. Sends are handy for when you want to combine an affected signal, a wet signal, with the unaffected dry signal. They're also good for applying one effect to more than one track. Let's say I want reverb on a few of my tracks. Instead of inserting the effect onto each track, which takes a lot of computer processing power, I activate a send on the tracks that I want to reverb, and then I send them to a single location in my session where the reverb resides. It's called a bus. You may be asking, what's a bus? A bus is like a virtual audio cable. It carries a signal from one point to another inside Pro Tools. Because it's virtual, you can do things with it that you can't do with physical cables. Like, for example, route many signals to one destination, as we see in this diagram. Also, virtual buses don't bring any noise to your audio. There's no degradation of the signal. However, they may seem confusing because they're virtual, and hence it may be hard to wrap your brain around their immensely concrete potential. In this video course, we'll be showing you how to use buses in Pro Tools. You can use them individually, in stereo pairs, or in multi-channel groups. You can set the input or output of any audio, aux input track, or instrument track to a bus in Pro Tools. You can also assign sends to buses. Pro Tools HD provides 128 buses, while LE and M-Powered support 32 buses. And one final note on signal flow. Don't forget that the settings on your plugin affect the next plugins in your signal chain. Be sure to watch for clipping at your signal's destination. Insert and send effects may apply a significant amount of gain increase that individually might be okay, but whose combined effect sends your output into the red with a digital clip. And this concludes our tutorial on signal flow.